Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Now, we're on the final part of the Hell Train's first saga, the Slayer Nominee competition. And we now need to explain everything that's been happening in the background. And I did say there was one unbelievably important individual in this entire saga, and that is Yuri Ha-Jahad. Now, throughout this entire saga, she's been chasing after Bam, and she left from Repelista's castle on whichever floor it is up on the tower to head to the Hell Train. Repelista transported them onto the station, and she's been recording what's been going on the Hell Train ever since they boarded. Now, I'm not sure whether Repelista is such a good guy. I have a suspicion that she's playing Kun Mashni versus Yuri, and she intends to take all of the 13-month weapons, or she intends to have all the 13-month weapons go to Balm. Then she intends to have the last gateway open and to have Jihad killed. I'm not sure which way Repelista is playing it, but Repelista is definitely up to something. She's a very intelligent individual. Okay, so now we end up following the backstory of what's going on. So we know that Yuri is part of all of this. Now, all this time, Karaka has been pulling the strings. Karaka organized that Pedro should be on the Hell Train. As a result, he also gave Pedro a very powerful observer, an ancient observer from before the time of Genesis, the time when they didn't have the protection of the great families. So this is a real dangerous situation for rankers because these are really powerful weapons. Depending on the level of the scout who uses it, it can be unbelievably dangerous. And the next thing to note about all of this is that is what Pedro has up his sleeve. Now, when Yuri boards the train, she can't find Balm, and the train disables the powers of guide, so Evan can't guide her to Balm. So they end up going straight to the head office of the Hell Train, saying that they're under the order of Jahad to see if this boy is alive. And at the same time, throughout this entire Slayer nominee competition, Yuri hasn't been informed about everything that was going on. When she finds out that the competition is being held for the rank of Slayer nominee from Fug, she ends up playing quite a big role in what's going to happen to the regulars. So she and Pedro end up making up a bet that depending on who wins, if Balm wins, she gets to meet Balm and she gets to kill Pedro. Pedro's bet is basically the same in the opposite manner. If Yuri uh, if Yuri ends up losing the bet, he can kill her on the train, and that's that. He'll kill her, and that's it. She's putting a life on the line to say that it's her betting shop. Now, beyond all of this, the next thing which happens is Karaka has also been on the Hell train this entire time. In the final compartment of the train, which is the doorway to the hidden floor. He's been hiding in there because it's not subject to the same rules as the rest of the train. Rankers can reside in that area. Another thing to note is rankers are not allowed on the Hell train except for the administrator or anybody who is invited by the administrator into his office. So, nonetheless, all of this is going down. While this entire thing is going down, Evan records everything using the power of the all-seeing eye, Repelista, and they end up transmitting it through the opera. Now, Repelista is one of the three opera users in the in the tower. The other one is one of the three lords of Jahad. So we know that it's one of the three lords, Repelista, and we don't know who the third user of opera is because there are exactly three operas in the entire tower. So, nonetheless, these are all the players in the background of what's happening in this fight. So, at one point, when Yuri finds out that White isn't a regular and a ranker, she ends up fighting with Pedro early, and she ends up basically almost killing him. But she says it's quite simple. Pedro will give the route to Yuri if Balm wins, because she's still not going to break a deal. But nonetheless, Pedro is beaten. His observer is beaten quite easily by Yuri, who doesn't even use Shinsu to get a power going. She just uses her raw punches, and one of her punches called the nuclear punch, which she uses to defeat Pedro. When Balm wins, Pedro reveals that this whole competition had also been with the second failsafe. If Balm won in any way, they were going to melt him with the thorn and make him back into the thorn, the soul for the thorn, so that Karaka could take the thorn. So this was the whole idea behind what was going on. We find out about Baylor Yama's involvement with Bullseye Elliott being promised the Slayer nominee position if they managed to beat Balm, but they failed, and that was that. Whew, okay. So when Balm wins, Yuri finds out that they're flooding that compartment. Yurahai uses her special technique with her traveler case where she can transport to another location. She stores several of them inside the case and then she teleports three of them over to the next section of the Hell Train. And from here, things go a bit rocky on their side. But nonetheless, let's talk about what happens to the other side. All the hostages have been saved. Balm is now basically Slayer nominee is free to choose whether he's going to be or not. Yuri ends up deciding to save them by taking a very dangerous route. She busts into the pipe filled with the solution from the workshop, ends up riding down it all the way down to where the regulars are. Now, when White lost, the chamber started flooding with that fluid from the workshop that can melt anything basically. And the regulars were all stuck in a real bind. Everything was being destroyed. At this time, when Rachel and Emily disappear, Harwan's instinct as a guide kicks in and she figures out that by one of the water entranceway something is coming. Kun picks up on this because of the way she's looking, and they all end up gathering right there. At this point, Yuri ends up breaking in and saving them. Then she uses her Shinsu for an instant, and she ends up teleporting them out of Danger's Way into the train. Now, this is where things get even more complicated, but let's go with it. Yuri ends up talking to Bam, finding out that he's met Yurik Mazzino, finding out as well that Fug has been involved in all of this craziness so far. Now, I do have Yurik. No. Sorry about that. I'm a little bit lost for Yurik Mazzino. There's he. Sorry. So, nonetheless, finds out that he's met Yurik Mazzino, and they also find out that Rachel is on her way to the floor of death. Now, in the course of this entire arc, she had a bet with Kun. If Kun wins, she'll tell him everything she knows about Palm, and when she loses the last game, she basically says, well, if you do want to find out, you're going to have to find me. And I'm going to the hell floor to find another piece of the thorn that Balm has, and also to find out who Balm really is. Now, once this is said, that really makes things blow into overdrive. Finding out that there's more to Balm than what she knows, and there's a lot more to learn about Balm inside the tower, and on a very particularly dangerous floor, the floor of death, where Andrew killed an administrator, makes things really, really difficult. And I said at this point, there's a lot of explaining to do. Right. Now, in order to explain everything, the thorn which is on Balm's back comes from an irregular called Andrew. Andrew is number 2 in the tower. He is the second strongest irregular to ever enter the tower, the second strongest person ever in the tower. He is said to be able to control over 9,000 Bang of Shinsu, which really puts it into perspective. Bam can control 7 at this point, and if you count that 7 against 9,000, it's nowhere near even a comparison. So when Andrew went up the tower, he ended up entering the 43rd floor of the tower, otherwise known as the floor of death. And on this floor, he visited the place that Arlene loved most. And when he found it, he found that there was a shrine devoted to worshipping Jahad. Seeing that Jahad had perverted this place and is taking away from what Arlene truly loved, he decided to wipe out everybody who was there and gave them a warning to leave now. And Jahad's loyal followers fought him. He wiped out most of their followers, and then he rained down his red rain. At this point, the administrator tried to get involved, and he simply wiped out the administrator and killed it. being the first death of an immortal of the tower. Now, that's how come Fug got such a big bonus of hope that there is a way to kill Jad in the end. Also, when he killed the administrator, he left four pieces of the thorn on the floor. So there are four pieces total. Three of them were smuggled off. One remained on the floor of death. One is on Balm's back. Obviously, we know about that one. And two others are in an unknown place. They still to surface and show where they are. Okay, moving on from this, the next major sequence of events that follows is going to be everything that happens with is going to be everything that's going to happen with this particular group of individuals. So Bam and his team are now determined to get to the Hell Floor because they want to find the other thorn piece to stabilize Bam's growth. Remember, Bam is not stable at the moment thanks to the thorn because he overloaded his body with the power of the thorn, and now his power is irregular and not flowing correctly. His growth has accelerated, and they don't understand what's going on. He could break himself if he keeps expanding power at this rate through the thorn, so they need to find a way to stabilize him, and there's two ways to do it. Number one, they can just wait till he's grown completely and he stabilizes on his own. Or number two, they can find all four thorn fragments, unite them, and stabilize Balm's growth instantly. So nonetheless, those are the options that are open to them. And every time he takes on a thorn, he's going to have a massive boost of power. So this is the story they tell Yuri, and Yuri says if they want to go to the floor of death, they're going to need her help, and if they want this here, they're going to have to do something as she's ordering them. They're going to have to train really hard and prove that they all have the skills to go to the floor of death. And last but not least, Balm has to capture the name of Kaiser or Kaiser. Now, Kaiser, as I like to say it, is the leader of a special station on their way up the tower called the Neyman Station. The Neyman Station has a history from when the 10 great warriors stopped over there, or the 13 warriors as they should be. And what happened over there was they put their freedom in their names on the line, taking bets and fighting people on that station. And basically, they've perverted that system to become the Neyman Station. We're going to get to the Neyman Station in the next video, and it should only take one video to complete it. So nonetheless, everybody is now on their way to the Neyman Station. Now there's more to the story, and there's one or two things that I will mention in the next video and not here. Part of the team that's heading towards the Neyman Station is a group with the following members: Kun Ran, Novik, Shia Shia, Beta, Dan. So those are all of the members of the teams that we know who are heading towards the Neyman Station at the moment. They're getting ready to jump onto the Hell Train and go after Cassino to capture Cassino for the revival of Ilma, and also to weaken Rachel so they can get their revenge on her at long last. So they have two objectives, and both the objectives are on the Hell Train. At the same time, something else which is happening on the Hell Train is Wagner is told that if he stays on the Hell Train, one of his teammates is bound to die. Now, that is also something that Baum was warned about. If he boards the Hell Train, members of his team are going to die this time. Okay, so Wagner gets together with Sweet and Sour. They end up kicking out Yua from the team, telling her she should go with Balm. She's the only one who really can help him or is of any use next to him. So she's going to go with Balm. Rak, Kun, Balm are now in a team together, along with the swordsman Sachi, Boro, Idade, um, Barrow. There's so many members of the team, and they basically one massive team put together. And on the other side, Wagner decides they're going to capture Cassino and they're going to leave the train. And that's going to be it. They're going to be gone from the train after this. That's their only objective at this point. So from here on out, things get a bit complicated. And one of the most sad things that ever happens in the story happens on the train for Team Sweet and Sour. I really did feel very sad when I saw this, and I'm going to have to mention it. So let's get into this. One of the saddest things that ever happened, the death of Ark Raptor and Prince. Now, in the pursuit of Casino, Wagner ends up actually cornering the team by using Mesang and Prince as bait to lure White out of the team to take him on a wild goose chase. In the same time, White ends up taking them on as his underlings and decides he might as well betray Rachel a little bit, just mess with her a little bit and weaken everybody who his enemies are at the same time. Casino ends up in a fight with Wagner, where Wagner injects him with a solution that will put the devil to sleep within him. He ends up fighting Wagner for 5 minutes, beating him almost to death. And at that point, Ark Raptor over here jumps in, saves Wagner, captures Casino, and they leave Traveler behind. At this point, Ark Raptor is carrying Wagner on his shoulder, heading towards the chamber where Miseng and Prince were locked in with White. At this point, Rachel ends up pulling off her sneak attack on Ark Raptor, and they end up cornering him. And they ask him for the code to release the gate where White is captured because White is actually betraying Team Sweet and Sour, which they suspected might be a thing, which is why they locked him in the room. And basically, Rachel points her weapon at Ark Raptor, and Yura holds Wagner hostage, directly threatening to kill him. So Ark Raptor surrenders the code, saying, "Fine, you can take us prisoner." Then after that, Yura drops Wagner to the floor and is about to kill him, and Ark Raptor says, "No, don't. You said you wouldn't." We said we'll spare his life if you told us the code. We didn't say we'd let him live." And at this point, Ark Raptor is really, really pissed off. And he says, you might as well kill me over killing him, because if you kill him, I have no intention to cooperate. I'm just going to fight non-stop. So eventually, Rachel takes his weapon from his hands and she kills him. She kills Ark Raptor in cold blood. They weren't fighting back, they weren't a threat. She kills him brutally, horribly. Another one of the massive, horrible acts committed by Rachel. And now to get on to what happens between White, Miseng, and Prince. So White was tricked by Miseng and Prince, but not really tricked. They came into his room, they said they wanted to be his teammates and they don't want to go to the floor of death. But White decided he's going to take them, betray them, and then he's going to eat them after he makes them beg for their lives. And when Miseng is trapped with White and Prince, White offers a choice to Prince. Choose whether he should eat the little girl or eat him. And Prince decides he should just eat Prince. He'll sacrifice himself for his teammate over letting anybody hurt Miseng. And White eats Prince. And that's how Prince dies. Then White and Miseng are released from that room, and they find the dead Ark Raptor at the door. So Sweet and Sour lost two key members, and till this day in the tower, Baum doesn't know about this. He doesn't know about what happened to Prince. He doesn't know about what happened to Ark Raptor. One of the saddest moments in the Tower of God. And we'll be kicking off the next chapter after this with the Neyman Station. I hope that you all do enjoy what comes after this, even though this wasn't such an enjoyable episode with this very sad pitch at the end. Really sorry about that, but catch you all in the next one, and I hope you have a good day. If you're getting lost with how I'm telling the story, read the story and you'll see why it's so confusing. There's so many things going on, and to condense it the way I'm condensing it is quite difficult. So catch you all then. Have a good day.